Okay, guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Madison, and I'll be your friendly Dungeon Muser this evening, because tonight we are doing part 2 of our 3-year retrospective on this campaign. We had last year, we had taken one session for a few of us to hang out and talk about the how the last 3 years of this campaign has been and talk about games in general. But there were 3 members of our party who were unable to make it due to other commitments or sickness or whatever. So we scheduled part 2 for tonight. So with me today, I'll go, why don't you guys tell us who you are normally play in our ongoing campaign, and then we will, I hope everyone has a beverage with them, and because it will be a relaxing chat tonight. Very little chance of any of the player characters dying. They are sort of slowly ticking down off screen, but tonight they will not shuffle off as mortal coil.
You say that, but yet we always find ways.
We've delayed this TPK for as long as we possibly can.
Exactly. Welcome to the second part, to 57, part 57 of our ongoing retrospective. First up, we have Will.
Hi, I'm Will. I normally play Chael. He is a 8th level elf cleric.
Nice. Next up is our resident armor smith, Dave.
Hey everybody, I'm Dave, and I normally play Druin Axebrother, who is a level 8 fighter cleric of Clangadin Silverbeard. Also, Greyhawk's okay as tank.
Nice. Next up is Andrew.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrew, and I normally play Tan of Thirendal, an elven rogue, but lately I've been playing Shuktu Gemfinder, a deep gnome ranger magic user.
Nice. And
side
last,
hustling as
you
a statue.
nailed that introduction this time, Andrew. New year.
Hey, you know, new year, new man.
Nice. And last but certainly not least, is sporting a New Year's worth of his art in the background, is Jeffrey.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody, I'm Jeff, and I play Kalador, the dancing elven fighter thief.
Nice. So last week we did just go through, I guess, first off, for those who are listening at home, well, Happy New Year to everybody there. This is our first session of the new year. So far, I was nearly late to the session, so we're off to just a fucking great start here. Last time, we just sort of, we let the conversation kind of go where it went. I had identified some things we wanted to talk about last time, but to be honest, once we got talking, we kind of just went all over for 2 hours. So we're probably going to do the same thing today. What we, for those who missed our first year of the retrospective, at the time of recording, we're into our 4th year of this campaign right now, and it's, I believe, 165. Our next session will be session 166 of the campaign. And I don't think, Andrew, you actually weren't playing with us on Wednesdays the last time we did a retrospective, like 2 years ago. So you came in about a year ago, I think. So we'll go through the question again. I guess one thing I had said last time, this is probably, I'm certain this is the longest campaign I've run, persisting campaign. Both in terms of how long it's been running in the real world time, and how many sessions long it is too. Dave, Andrew, and Jeff, how does that compare with the other campaigns you guys have played in? Not that there's a contest, mind you, but
Well, here on the channel, I guess it's probably my longest. Crystal Shard, I've missed a fair number of sessions in the last year, but that's also been pretty long. I did play in a campaign back when AD&D was not several editions old, and we played those characters up to level 10, and it was several years in the making. So this is like on par with that as the taking a long time. We were pretty diligent about our play back then, and we played every week, but I think this campaign has exceeded that in length.
What's she, Jeff? I know you had that really long-running basic game that went into 3rd edition when it came out.
Right, like the one that we played with Chad and Brent way back in the day.
I don't think we can actually say we, because I was living away at the time. So like, I'd come in and cause trouble and then leave.
You like played a character that was there a few times. Yeah.
I was the Hobbs of that campaign.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Show up.
It was
cause
mostly
trouble.
me and Brent, I think, playing. Yeah, and Dave Mazak had a character, but again, I don't know, Dave Mazak's Dave Mazak, for those who know him.
Kev was mostly myth and legend.
He's a real character. Yeah, Kevin would show up, create chaos, and then disappear again. Yeah.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah. But that was a pretty long run campaign, like time wise. Like we played it for a few years. Not as regularly as this, but when we would play sessions, then, of course, being younger, we would do what young people do and play like 12 hours on a weekend or whatever. And so you get a lot of game in, but I think the characters were about level 13 by the end or somewhere in there. So a little higher than we are now.
What about you, Andrew?
I mean, technically, I've been running a 5th edition game since June of 2016, but the problem is we only get to play because people move across the country and all that, and schedules and all that. I'm sure we don't know anything about that here. So we only.
What are you talking about? Dave is running his 5th edition game right now.
Don't tell his group that. But no, so we only play like maybe a few times a year, so I don't know that even really counts. We've only had like maybe 30 sessions in 6 years. That's not a real campaign. So
30 sessions is something. There's nothing to sneeze at either.
No, that's fair. So Crystal Shard would probably be the longest game I've been in, because I started that before, about 2 years before? No, 1 year before.
Crystal Shard is 4 months younger than Night Below.
Okay.
We started playing Crystal Shard right at the start of the pandemic.
Right.
But
I joined this campaign a year later.
Andrew didn't come on to this game until like year 3, right?
Oh, yeah.
I've only been in this game about a year.
Oh, okay. So you've only been in for, yeah. It feels like you've been here the whole time.
Thank you, or screw you. Not sure.
So one of the things we talked about last week was over the past since we did our last retrospective, we've played, let's see here, either war stories or side sessions of Rollmaster on Wednesdays, Dangerous Journeys, D&D 4th edition war story, a Pathfinder 2nd edition war story, and that was fairly extended this year. And then we also made the switch about halfway through 2022 to Castles and Crusades. So one of the things we talked about last week was the way that the different versions of the characters, like Will had a really interesting comment about how playing the Pathfinder 2 game made him see his character, made him see Chael in a different way than what he was before. So yeah, I mean, that's what are your guys' takeaways from the various war stories and side things we've played over the course of the 3 years we've been playing on Wednesdays?
Well, I can go first because I have so little to say about the different versions of the game. I'm sure you guys know that I just come here to have fun with you guys and tell stories. And Kevin could tell me that we're playing Monopoly versions of our characters, and it would be good enough for me. So, the game system to me is so secondary to what we're doing here, and basically in every game we play. Yeah, Kevin loves reading them and exploring them and switching them and coming up with new versions of the characters and all that, and I just pick it up, and it's all rolling dice to me. Like the gameplay stuff, I don't know, not too fussed about any version. I enjoy them all. I'm a gamer. I love playing games, and so I have very few versions of role-playing games that I don't like. So that's my 2 cents on the different versions of the games. It's like,
Well, did you find that there were things that you were doing or playing with your character in any of the versions of the war stories that just like similar to what Will had said, that didn't seem to? I think my UPS delivery is here.
Like that would change the way that I thought about Kalador?
Not necessarily the change the way you thought about him, but like saw other things. Like one thing I'm thinking of is that I rewatched our Pathfinder 2 war story, and one of the neat things was your dancing played a significant role in one of the in the outcome of one of our role-playing encounters.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess the skills play out differently and can help you differently.
I think it gives you more areas to engage with the actual game mechanics in certain games, or at least different areas to engage in the game mechanics than what you do in other games.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
Mm-hmm. Well, Andrew or Dave?
I think Druin's changed a little bit in between game systems. Not the character, like to Jeff's point, the role-playing aspect is consistent, but the skills and abilities and stuff have changed a little bit. So in Pathfinder, or in PF2, I saw him be more as less tanky and more damager. He in the AD&D second edition. Yeah, he had more attacks, but he was really just a bucket of hit points and a lot of armor, and he could sit there in the middle and take on a lot of people and help keep the squishies alive. But in PF2, he had like some cool abilities that made him attack more, and he did more damage and things like that. So I think in PF2 he was more of a damage, a DPS character. At least a little bit more than he was tank in previous. But in Castles and Crusades, he's got some different healing skills that, while he does take healing in all his versions, I think that's a little more effective in this game. So I think I see him a little bit differently. He's more of a true cleric in some ways. So he still has, half fighter and still pretty tanky. I play him a little more. I rely on the healing a little more. And in some of the other games that we've played, I think it's just, I don't know if it's just the way that skills and attributes and abilities and whatnot work out, but the experienced gamer sits down at the table and says, okay, well, what can I do with this character, right? And what's happening in this situation, and what skills and abilities can I bring to the table to try and help us not die?
Mm-hmm. Well, also, you're not yours in particular in our Rollmaster game. Excuse me, the Heirs of Sea and Sorrow. That largely revolved around your character. So you had a shit ton of role playing that you actually did. A lot of heavy lifting for the role playing through that campaign or mini campaign.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was is nice to be a central character to the story. Though I oftentimes would try to I feel bad though. It's like trying to bring in the other characters. It's just I want this to be a group thing.
Mm-hmm. I think everyone did. Like everyone knows. One thing that's nice about this table is that everyone knows how to share spotlight equally too. Because Jeff's character had a lot of really kind of shining moments in that game as well. The monk that you played in that, Jeff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My bodyguard protector character.
Mm-hmm. As did you, Will. You both had a terrific takedown with your wolf ability, and then you unfortunately ran into a great axe.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed that. And I think it's fun. And I mean, to some extent, well, in that game specifically, when we did that, you built in a lot of bonds in that game. That in a straight traditional sandbox, start from the ground up, aren't always there. Mm-hmm. But I always think it's fun how we play that stuff. And that continues to be, and I'm pretty sure I said this last week, and I'm pretty sure it's not the first time I've said it, but the interactions between the characters and what you key on and what you don't key on, and what you as a player, have your character, it's a word I'm looking for, I guess, interact with that other character.
Mm-hmm.
That for me, that's, you know, like I said, that's the important part for me. That's the part I enjoy. Is those types of bonds. And so, I mean, even when it's something that you've already got, you know, that you've already put out there, you can still move that somewhat. Mm-hmm. You know, and I've always enjoyed that. That's the interactions. Like I said, I know the interactions I had with Druin specifically, and with Knox specifically. You know, the evolving of that over time. You know, and even going back to that where it was me and Jeff, and wasn't George the other brother?
Steve was.
Not in this, in the
in the thing, John was playing the other.
There was the interaction between us and the way we kind of played that. You know, that's what I always, I guess, key off of. I mean, it's fun to don't get me wrong, I love combat. And I love pushing the envelope of the game system. And like, I'm sure John would not argue with this, I do engage in some power gaming min-maxing, because the rules are there for a reason, you know. But, you know, that being able to push with those relationships and see where they go and see what stories we can tell there, that's the fun part for me.
Well, what you, Andrew? Back to that town and beat up that bar guy.
You guys got a couple NPCs in Night Below that you guys want to do ill to.
Man.
Didn't Jeff threaten him in the middle of the night?
Oh, that dude. Yeah. The other tavern owner. That piece of crap. Yeah, I don't like that guy.
Andrew, you didn't get to weigh in your 2 cents on the experience through the war stories.
I mean, I only played a couple. It was the recent one of
You
North.
played the Harazi in Rollmaster, where you had that the winged guy with the bow.
Oh, that's true. I was thinking just in terms of like canonically what's in the Night Below campaign.
Yeah, I think you didn't play the 4E one, right?
No.
Okay, so PF2, and I think that's it then.
PF2 was the only, and of course the shift to CNC. I mean, you know, I'm just gonna end up echoing people, but I don't. Actually, I will admit, and I'm sure this will become relevant as we talk more about the bigger shift from AD&D to CNC for the actual campaign, but. I mean, generally, I have learned to be very flexible, because I've enjoyed the experiences I've had trying out different systems, and I think usually we're able to, especially with PF2, we're able to just make that happen very quickly and very easily, and that's always been really fun, and allows, like, especially playing different versions of the same character with a different rule set is kind of interesting from a story perspective, but also in the way that the mechanics then change the decisions that get made for that character, and then figuring out ways to make that, how that plays out in the narrative and in their development, because it not only does it force me to think about the character differently, but like whether it's Tanev or Shuktu, like they will physically have to play differently in PF2 or AD&D or whatever other system, because they have access to different abilities. They don't have access to some other abilities, and so it forces you to reconceptualize, and so you make different choices in combat encounters or in exploration or even survival like scenarios, because you make use of different skill sets, and it really kind of rounds out how you think about the character and also the class you're playing.
See, it's interesting you say that, because like we're having a rewatch the PF2 war story over the holidays. Tanev started making a bigger impact on the game, I think, after the PF2 sessions. Before that, you were sort of Kalador's sidekick, and like you had some clutch moments, like when you shot that hag and whatnot, and drove that one off. And there was a couple other things you did that were really interesting in it, but. The scene where, and this is the same session that we saw some development with Chael as well, when you guys were investigating that windmill, and Tanev decided to hang back, and they were just, again, I think it's more to what the capabilities of the rogue are in PF2 as opposed to what we were in second edition AD&D, and also because Pathfinder 2, you guys were all equal level as opposed to you being less powerful and slowly making your way up. Remember, you hung back and you fucking sniped that guy when he was trying to get in. You then, just brutally massacred a guy when you used that elven curve blade that became part of your character as well.
I still say he had it coming, and the law can say what it
I would
wants,
not disagree with that. He did not, they were death cultists, so, there is that.
I just gave him what he wanted,
Yeah, it was neat seeing, because I think that there were quite a few things that Tanev did over the course of that mini campaign that, like I mentioned about with Kalador, and we talked last week about Chael's use of magic, like because of the natural ability or the way at least his character was built as an elf, he had the ability to sense magic. That just everyone ended up with a slightly different place. And it's interesting, Dave, that you said that the C&C one made Druin feel more like a healer, because there was a clutch moment that I believe it was Druin got off a heal in one of the penultimate, or I think it was the penultimate fight when you guys were facing all those waves of undead. That you kind of like not only took down a bunch of undead, but healed a bunch of people. Both Chael and Druin really shined in that final kind of scrap.
My intention was partly to heal the party, but it was also like, if I can take out enough undead, we might be able to live through this. And I'm like, oh, I can heal Chael too and get him back up, then we're good to go.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was Andrew, it was interesting seeing you play the character from that perspective, because I felt like the character, I felt like he had a much bigger presence at the table than he had in the previous sessions. And that could have been because you joined the campaign later as well. Maybe you're just waiting to find that moment for him to find his own, thematic space. But
I think so. I mean, it's interesting you say that, because I would agree. I think a couple things happened and just kind of came together during that war stories. One, I had considered myself like new to the group. I mean, by the time I joined, I was familiar enough with the AD&D rules that that wasn't necessarily the adjustment. It was just getting used to how this class plays in this game. Mm-hmm. But I had been up until that point trying to just kind of find my place in the group, and I didn't want to kind of overstep, and because a lot of the guys in this, like Will, Jeff, and George, and Steve-O, I really had not played with a great deal. Mostly I'd played with Dave over in the Crystal Shard game, so I was trying not to be that interloper who comes in and like a bull in a china shop. So I think I finally started to get my sea legs at that point. Oh, and John, because the Crystal Shard, he's in that too. But also I think the PF2, like seeing Tanev from another angle, I think helped too, because I will admit I had been frustrated playing Tanev up until that point, and was so again when we went back to AD&D, because I think. And it could just be you've made the comment that like, well, we're not in an actual dungeon yet, and when we get there, just wait, because your skills will become right. Yeah. But I found myself frustrated as a rogue in AD&D because I felt like I didn't really know what my role in a combat encounter was, and I didn't feel like I was very useful or contributing to the group in a very meaningful way. But when we switched to PF2, like that became much more clear to me, and likewise with the switch to C&C. Although I was very hesitant at first, I will admit. But I found that Tanev's role made a lot more sense to me and felt more familiar. Now, that could be because I have also played a rogue in 5e, and I felt like it felt very familiar to me. But, yeah, I don't know. I was more interested in the character after that point, I think.
That's awesome. Okay.
Well, you got to just give it your all every session, because you never know when you might get
Turned to stone.
turned to stone.
Yeah, I guess we can talk. You have the honor of being the first player to. I'm not sure we'd say you necessarily lost Tanev, but he is definitely misplaced at this point. You want to talk about that at all?
Idea where he is. I'm right here, locked up in my steel trap.
For those listening at home, we haven't yet to have any proper fatalities. Tanev is technically not dead; he is just stoned for a very, very, very long time. Until our heroes get powerful enough to find the statue again and then cast stone to flesh. But it's the first, we've had in our Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerers of Hyperborea game that we ran for quite some time. We had a couple character deaths in that, and in actually in a couple of those campaigns, we had a TPK in that one, in fact, and it was. But yours is the first one. Your character is the first one we've seen where you started playing someone different in the course of the game. I think maybe that's the most appropriate way to put it.
Yeah, no, and yeah. I mean, as you say, Tanev's somewhere, and he's. I have bets on we're gonna forget where we parked him. It was guys. It was on B level. Honestly though, I don't know. I mean, I kind of joked about it, but I'm kind of serious. I am really digging Shuktu, and I know that you just kind of made him as I don't know if I'm allowed to keep him or not, but
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
We'll eventually get back to save Tanev, I'm sure, but we'll do it when we do it.
I think we got to survive the current encounter first. Where we start
hey, I'm just fine.
Technically, we don't know if
Tanev
Tanev is savable. I mean,
yeah,
none of us
exactly.
can do it. So we'd have to convince someone else to come with us to save him. So that's
and we don't even know where somebody is that's capable of, because even the clerics at the castle are probably not high enough level to.
Yeah, your best bet locally is probably Threshold. Which you guys have not actually traveled to.
Threshold and get somebody to come all the way back, drag them down some cavern where it might be a tough sell.
Yeah, because I mean, you do know the upside is you do know precisely how to find him. I think, as long as you can find that hole in the ground in the Thornwood Forest that you guys went down into.
It might have been easier to chip a piece of him off and then do a resurrection.
Turn it back into a bloody chunk or a bloody finger. Okay, so I'm sure he's fine.
Can you stone
we
a flesh and then
reincarnate
resurrect
or whatever?
stone a flesh and then resurrect him from this? Can you?
But it's worth noting too, Andrew. You took that like a champ as well. You didn't grouse or anything about what the outcome. Because that was a really tough encounter. You guys effectively fought a combined Roper and Beholder while underwater and in the dark. Whoever your DM is, he's an asshole.
Yeah, that was bullshit.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
What was our bonus experience from that encounter? We gotta go back and check that out.
You guys got a shit ton of experience from that encounter, and gold as well too. There's a bunch of
loot.
That part, yeah. I will admit there was a moment where I was like, "Hold up a minute," when we're getting all the experience, and I was like, "Oh, everybody but Tanev." You can't get experience. A dead guy cannot, or a stone cannot collect experience.
Oh man!
And we lost all the gear that you were carrying.
It wasn't much.
I wouldn't say lost. It'll be very easy to find. It's just, you know.
Can't really use it.
Yeah, wouldn't eat those stone biscuits. So what about the what do you call it? Over the past 2 years, I guess, since our last retrospective, what are the moments from the campaign that stand out the most for you guys? It's either, you know, big developments, big setbacks.
I mean, we've already talked about it a whole lot, but I mean, honestly, that's for Kalador. That's probably one of the biggest moments. I mean, Tanev came on as sort of his apprentice. He was teaching him all about thievery. You know, they were really forming kind of a relationship. They taunted each other back and forth a little bit on like successes and stuff. And then he was turned to stone, and it was like, you know, that's a big blow for Kalador. Like, I think that's probably on his mind all the time, game wise.
Your mailbox at the Silver Boulet is full of correspondence from the Greyhawk Thieves Guild. We haven't received an update on the apprenticeship of your mentor or mentee recently. Could you please provide an update?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's definitely a big one for Kalador. I just wanted to finish there so that in case other people wanted to go to a different moment, but
Well, I don't know, of all the D&D and all the games I played over the years, and I've probably been playing, well, from 48, and I started playing when I was 13. So yeah, 37 years? 33 years? Something like that. I don't know. Depends on when you actually say you started playing. But actually fighting and defeating a legit dragon is freaking hard. And had it not been for Knox's staff rupturing and rock slide going haywire and beating on the dragon too, and we might have died in that. There's been a lot of combats where we could have all died, but
oh yeah. Well, in that one you were without, like, you guys have set up a really good plan, and then things just went sideways for John.
From the first roll,
it
went sideways.
Really shitty roll, and then just things cascaded from there.
Yeah, it just kind of went downhill. But then in the end, we defeated a dragon. And then we spoke to another dragon and convinced it that we weren't in the wrong for defeating its relations, and it dropped us off at home. Like, really? Like, so we fought a dragon, beat a dragon, and then its relative dropped us off at home safe and sound, and here we go. And I'm like, oh, that was kind of an epic kind of moment.
Yeah.
Well, and you definitely earned it after slogging through the what is it, the
Weeping Mire?
Yes, yeah, the Weeping Mire. I kept thinking like the Hool Marshes. I'm like, that's not here, that's elsewhere.
Oh, I hate that place. Oh my gosh, that's just a horrible place I never want to go back to.
Which where the Shrieking Mire?
Yeah, that was like swamp, and then this monster, and then this horrible thing, and then
your gear deteriorating.
Oh,
and what was that? What was those stupid teleporty type creatures that showed up when we were on the boat that one time?
Phase spiders.
The phase spiders.
And didn't you have some kind of displacer otters or something?
Yes.
Oh, don't.
Yes.
Don't. No. Not
I
the
get them out of here.
Where are they here?
I
There
don't
you go.
need to see Dave's picture to know.
You know,
what he
that classic D&D monster, the Displacer Otter.
Oh my god.
did.
It is so wrong. So wrong.
Man, those things were no joke. They killed that one, the guy you were traveling with, like, instantly.
Yeah,
and
the
then,
guy that we got the boat from, wasn't it?
Yep.
Or whose boat it was?
Yep.
We're like, yeah, thanks for the boat. Sorry about your death. Should have never got on a boat with us.
With us, right? That's a bad idea right there.
That happens a
Getting
lot.
on a boat with any PC is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Anybody who travels with us in almost any game seems to not last
Yeah,
long.
it doesn't always end well.
NPC, pet.
Yeah.
How many dogs has John gone through?
Yeah. That's what
He gave up on him.
Yeah.
The shelter wouldn't adopt him anymore. He kept getting rid of them. Oh, man. Yeah, that was one of the early Tremors homages. Our annual Tremors homage that cost him his dogs.
Right.
Yeah. What about Andrew and Will? What do you think? What moments in the last couple of years have really stood out for you guys? Personal developments, developments as the party as a whole. Andrew is accurately role-playing Tanev right now.
Very cool.
I guess, I mean, I think it was within the past 2 years, when Chael finally kind of figured out what was going on with Knox. And starting to really have serious conversations with him about it, taking it seriously and making a stance. I guess that's probably the first part, is really making a stance. Because, I mean, and I mentioned this last time, and I don't think we delved into it a lot, but I take alignment fairly seriously as a concept. It's in the rules for a reason, I guess this is the way I look at it, okay? And so, but you can play around with it. You can have a lot of fun with it. And so, I said, okay, my character, he's a cleric, but he's fundamentally a touched individual by a extraterrestrial deity, however you want to conceptualize gods in D&D. And so, this is important. This means something for Chael to make a personal stand in the good versus evil conflict. And so that was something for me as a player to say, okay, yeah, let's explore that. Let's develop that. Let's push that. Let's push against him. Let's see how he reacts, and let's use that to drive a story somewhere. So that's probably, I mean, there were other, I enjoyed, we talked some about the Pathfinder too. I enjoyed some of the detective aspects that I was able to play up with Chael. I kind of enjoy that because part of my conception of him is as a kind of almost, I don't want to say that because that's really not exactly right, but like an Elven Van Helsing, a detective type, undead hunter type. That's a part of Solomon Kane.
Yep.
Is an influence. Howard Kane is an influence on how I see Chael and how I try and play Chael. So that was fun. But just as far as us, that's probably the biggest one for Chael, is that getting into that. Okay, hey, he's coming under the influence of something that's one of the worst possible things there is. Really.
Yeah.
There's not much worse if Greyhawk and D&D lore. There's not much worse than there is. There really isn't.
No,
I mean, to me, it's worse than
unlike any other kind of everything else has a conception of evil in the sense that they even the nihilistic ones, I don't think approach a conception of annihilation the way that Theros Dune does, because Theros Dune pre-exists gods and the universe and existence. It's the most fundamental threat of any. Yeah,
Orcus wants to rule. He wants to be the big baddie. Theros Dune's not like that. He just wants to wipe it all out.
Yeah.
It's basically, so. It's
a great character. Like it's a Gygaxian creation, from what I understand, and it's a fucking super cool character. Like great. It's a neat change from the traditional Lovecraftian approach for elder god kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it does a really good job of taking kind of a Lovecraftian concept and applying it in the Dungeons and Dragons setting, and so that became a big deal, and that's still a big deal for Chael.
I can't remember who it was, who the author is, Chambers maybe, but there was one pulp writer who took kind of a for the Cthulhu mythos, or for the Lovecraftian mythos, they took it as being like different elemental forces, and I feel like Gygax's conception of it is probably informed by that approach more so than a purist Lovecraftian approach.
I think that was probably what's his face, the guy that Derleth, August Derleth.
Oh, okay.
Now, I may be wrong on that.
They talk about it in every from 3rd edition forward in Call of Cthulhu, because they choose in that game, they choose to excise that stuff and keep it closer to the true Lovecraftian stuff. Yeah. But I mean, like, what you choose to pick and choose from as your influence is everyone's entitled to do that, and it seems like that might be more of the influence that Gygax had in creating Tharizdun, more so than just the
Well, I mean, you look at the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
There's definitely, some knowledge that, and really, you got to think about Lovecraftian scholarship in relation to that. At the time that Gygax was doing this stuff, August Derleth was the reason we had any knowledge, really, of Lovecraft.
And this is pre-Call of Cthulhu as well. I didn't get into Call of Cthulhu until the 3rd edition, so I actually don't know whether that intentional exclusion of that stuff was done beforehand, or whether that was something incorporated into later editions.
Yeah.
But
I've got first. Wait a minute. Yeah, because I got the Kickstarter reprint. That's 2nd at least.
That's 2nd, I think. Yeah. Take a look and see. I'd be interested to know whether
I need to go back and reread all that.
Yeah, because it's right at the beginning of the Keeper's Secrets section. What about you, Andrew? Any moments particularly stand out for you? And I know, you had a really starring role kind of in one of our first arcs in the Legacy Crystal Shard campaign. So I think by contrast, you haven't yet had a opportunity to have quite as large a shadow over the campaign in this one. But what in your mind stands out? Stuff that your characters did or that you were part of?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think this campaign has we already talked about it. I mean, despite the fact that it landed my character into its current state, that was the very first Beholder I had ever fought. So it also, so it gave me that experience. I think there was another. Yeah, this campaign also gave me my very first owlbear.
No kidding.
And it was an undead owlbear to boot. So that was pretty damn cool.
That was awesome.
Story. So I think right now, there haven't been too many specific story moments for either of my characters. But certainly those 2 encounters were memorable because they're my firsts. And boy, when you behold her well, so no fucking around here.
Yeah, it was. I tell you, when I wrote the encounter, I may have been giggling to myself, or with me and Anna at least, about the idea that I knew you would need to have some kind of magical thing to breathe underwater, and then as soon as it opened its central eye, he would start suffocating in the dark. So,
yeah.
Oh man, I will say for Roll20 was, I think, a real asset in that thing, because being able to go and turn your magical lights off, for those of you who are relying on that, I imagine that had a very visceral fuck, kind of reaction, because you can't see what's happening on the screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those kind of are the standouts for me. I feel like there's going to need to be more time. I feel like, assuming we survive our current situation, and again, I refer you to the fact that Shock 2 is just fine. He's just hanging on the ceiling.
Druin is technically as well. I don't think Druin's actually been in this fight yet.
That's true.
Yeah, well, that's
Druin,
what
you and I can
hoping
just
for, is that Druin is going to show up and really save the day.
So long as he survives the scheduling encounter with his other group.
Yes.
But yeah.
Eyes. So, what else we talked last week as well a bit about the future you saw for your characters.
Well,
Ideally, I don't mean like what you expect is going to happen. You don't need to guess what's going to happen in the campaign. More horrible monsters, more terrible circumstances, and even more awful enemies. But if your characters had their druthers, what would they want of things? What would they want to see happen to them? Retire, to move on to something else. I know Chael's got revenge in his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think peaceful retirement is something that Kalador would like to have. What that looks like, I don't know, but he's definitely hoping for it.
Well, Kalador is also, I mean, he's young as far as elves go, but he is a veteran of the Greyhawk Wars, and the way you described it, that had a significant influence on his outlook.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, maybe even again, harping back to what happened to Tanev, it's like, even just because you can live to an old age doesn't mean you're going to, and it's, anything can happen at any moment. And so, Kalador is always looking ahead, I think, a little bit to retirement.
What about Druin?
Pretty sure Druin's not going to ever retire. He's going to talk about it, but probably isn't going to happen. I could see Druin. Well, first, before we let this go, Druin wants to solve some things. He's like, that stupid fishy oil and the disappearing casters. We got to figure out what the hell's going on there and solve that.
And the disappearing witch?
Spellcasters.
Oh, spellcasters. Yeah. Why? And he got the doppelgangers.
Yeah. He wouldn't mind punching that lord in the face, even if it means a couple of weeks in jail.
I think it's been a year since you guys have been back there as well.
That's right. The years are slow for dwarves.
Yeah. Oh, and you guys know that they have been experiencing flooding in Citadel Silver since the Lord took that ring.
Yeah, that jerk. That's funny.
Probably shipped it to the dwarves.
I don't know how much you've given thought to either Shuk2 or Tanev since he turned to stone, but Andrew, any thoughts on what... We haven't really seen Shuk2's home life, as it were, yet.
Oh, he's utterly domesticated. This grim exterior he puts on, and then at home he's got an apron and he's baking. No, I mean, I think Tanev's future is pretty
set in stone.
Yeah, it's pretty set in stone.
You guys can't see, but Will's shaking his head.
He's a solid guy, that Tanev.
Yeah. Yeah. He brings a lot of weight to the scenario,
Like a rock.
Gravitas to every situation.
Yep. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I for me actually, Shuk2's really new. He doesn't really have any unresolved things in the story just yet. So for his future, I'm just kind of looking forward to exploring him more and seeing how, he gets along with these new travel companions he's found that he seems to be really uncertain of, but he seems to be rather certain in his role of these poor misguided souls. I've got to, and I okay. Honestly, in my head, when I'm playing Shuk2, the way I've kind of accidentally, he's kind of evolved here, and I think it was because I don't know if it was Wayne or somebody in chat who commented that they liked his introduction that like weird Clint Eastwood gruff kind of approach I took. So I stuck with it because in my head, Shuck 2 is kind of looking at the rest of them, and this is not a fair position for him to take whatsoever, but like these delightful idiots who found their way down here, and clearly just why are they here, and this is dumb and foolhardy for them to be down here. They need somebody to look out for them, or else they're going to get themselves killed. And he doesn't normally do this, and yet he's like feels compelled to like do this for them, and he doesn't understand why. That's kind of my working model for him right now.
In retrospect, it was I think we did a better job, and by we I mean me, did a better job of introducing Shuck 2 to the party and motivating his reason for being there and giving you some other stuff to do role-playing wise with him than what we did with Tanev. Because it seems like from what you said before about struggling to kind of figure out what Tanev's place was, you hit the ground running with Shuck 2 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, partly I'm already kind of like comfortable and familiar with all of you guys, so that might have played a role. But I mean, yeah, maybe the scenario Shuck 2 already feels like a bit more fleshed out. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he's also got some I think there are ways that Shuck 2 can draw the party in interesting new directions as well, rather than just following along with what the party is doing. And it's not to say that every character needs to be that way, but it's I think a good lesson to draw from for when you're adding a new character in, rather than just I think the instinct is to not rock the boat and be like, okay, we'll add someone in and just we'll incorporate you along with whatever we're doing. There's something to be said for adding a character who is really going to have an effect on the dynamic and perhaps the trajectory of the story. Not only does it give the new player something to latch onto for and a way to interact with characters they don't have that backstory with, but also a way for all the players to interact with the new player because their characters don't know that new character.
There's I'm in a if you'll indulge a slight sidetrack for a second. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. The stupid phone is being loud and obnoxious. Someone is being obnoxious. So I'm playing another game, and I was introduced to the group like they're already well underway in their campaign. But the way the DM did it was I had rescued a group of refugees from one place to another. We were on a ship. The ship, we had hit a storm. It hadn't done so well. The ship barely lurched into the harbor, right? And so when the party meets me, I'm literally fresh off this boat that looks like it's nearly done for, as do I. But it turns out that the party needs a ship because they have for their quest or whatever, they need this vessel. And so immediately, boom, what do you have? You have this new character who has access to the thing the party needs, but the thing that they need is also in disrepair. So there's, we need to fix it up. We need to get a bunch of stuff. We need to fix him up and convince him to come with us. So already there's that purchase and that reason for everybody to get along because it drives the story forward. And I think that's so I would agree. I think it's an effective way to introduce a new character, whether or not the player is new.
Yeah, we needed Shuck 2 when he showed up.
Yeah.
But that whole thing about us being lost and stuff, and we get that kind of remarks on the surface too, so you don't want to.
So what you're saying is Shuck 2 has accurately understood what the scenario he's in. I mean,
I'm saying you're not as special as you think you are. But you're still special, so don't you worry about it. No, I just think by nature, our group has been very, aside from a few times where we were steadfast on a particular mission and we're doing, we've had a lot of like you said,
misguided, or like we're doing this. No, let's change our minds. Let's do this. Let's do this. No, let's change our minds. Let's do this. And we're like, hey, we're gonna help the Knolls. No, we're gonna help these. We're gonna save the Eric Okra. No, we're gonna go back to town. And we're gonna save the Eric Okra. We're doing all these things and we're doing none of them. And then we're doing something and we're not. Every once in a while we get motivated and we go off and we do something and that we're set. But then we get those moments where we're literally, as Andrew described us, like, you know, floundering around and misguided and lost and not sure what we're doing. And yeah,
To be clear, Shuck2 thinks that. Andrew doesn't think that. You're all splendid and wonderful.
Yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong with going where you decide to go. Like, the thing about the game is, like, it's not like the way we run this campaign, at least, there's not this is the story you're on right now and we'll see it to the end of it, then you'll go to the next thing. Like, we play this every Wednesday, so sometimes, you know, it's more interesting to, you know, everyone's going to be in a mindset to want to do like heavy role playing or intrigue or track down answers on things. And some days you just want to kill a bunch of shit, right? Like, you want to get in a scrap and fight some monsters and whatever. And we have more combat in this campaign than I think any other game we run. And that's not a bad thing. It's the nature of this campaign. And I think that sometimes, you know, you'll start pursuing something because of the pace of play in it and just decide, you know what, this is not what I'm feeling right now. I want to do something else. And if you're looking at it strictly from a narrative, it looks like a schizophrenic, like, oh, now I'm going to go do this. Now I'm going to go do this. I shouldn't say schizophrenic, that's a pejorative, but an indecisive way of playing. But it's also, I mean, like, some days we want it. The same reason that where like the war stories or running the other Felder games is kind of a good thing. It gives us a chance to palate cleanse and be like, you know, I really feel like this right now.
But that's also parallels to life in some ways, right?
Oh,
life is not life isn't a, you know, doing this, and this, and we're going down this path. Bam. Some people like it to be that way, and they might set goals and try to keep themselves. But you still get pulled in different directions. You still get. So when we've got a quest to, do you want to help the werewolves, or do we want to go and fight down the baby Bule, or do we want to, like, you know, trying to figure out what's important? It's like, hey guys, you know, we really need to do this because this is important. Okay, let's off into the swamps then, and we'll chase down the dragon.
Well, and in defense of distractions too, like you guys getting set up with the silver boulet, and then like that random longtime viewers will recall that the plague that struck during the winter predates the pandemic. So it wasn't something that we introduced to be topical. It was a random event that we determined, and that allowed everyone to have, you know, not only did we start, I mean, the war story was centered around just before that period, or our most recent war story at least. We've only had one proper war story. The other ones are sort of like, you know, side treks or something, because the war story is the one that, technically the way I used to run war stories is that they're part of the actual campaign itself. So that's the PF2 version. That's really the only one where you guys did play actual versions of your characters. But anyway, that was a total distraction, but I think that's cast a pretty long shadow over the campaign now. And having that time to just build something up that was a permanent structure, like the tavern that you guys all own now, that was something, you know, it chewed up, what, like a season? I mean, you guys needed to train as well, too, but I think that the distractions aren't always... And distraction is probably not the right thing. It's just sometimes you need to catch your breath, do something different for a bit, and then carry on. We also got to run that Pathfinder. I forgot we ran Savage Pathfinder war story as well, or not war story, but sidetrack, where Andrew got the the orphan's mom killed.
Orphan's mom, was that?
That was when we played Savage Pathfinder, and you were playing
the
someone.
Iron Gods campaign.
No, it wasn't Iron Gods. It was in Pathfinder too, but we used Savage Pathfinder as a rule set for it. You guys all played staff members at the Silver Boulet, who went off in search of that treasure.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
The civilians going out for some fun.
Yep.
Oh, those No, now you want to talk about delightful idiots.
That was fun. I liked those characters. They got wasted though.
Oh yeah, they got torn to pieces by werewolves.
Oh god, that did not go well.
Character, like she encountered her husband, like the zombie was her husband.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Oh jeez, it's a good thing she didn't make it out of that, because if she had, she's probably better off.
At least we didn't like kill each other though. Not like in All Flesh Must Be Eaten, because that was was like
oh my god,
critical hits on party members, blowing people's heads off and
honestly,
taking characters out. Yeah,
the funniest fucking ending of any session I've run, I think, since we started the channel. Only because we had we had backup characters for this thing. It was a like 80s horror thing, but one critical hit took out the mom of one of the PCs, and then like 2 actions later, the critical hit took out the kid who was the mom. It was just like ridiculous. Turns out, unloading a shotgun inside a mall store is not good when you're untrained kids. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was
a big bad guy. There was a big bad guy there. There was a chance to be a hero. Instead, you destroyed your best friend's mom.
Good lord. She lived. It was the kid who died.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, that the Savage Pathfinder one was again, like the neat thing with that, it was being able to build on the decisions you guys made on what to build up in the game. That doesn't exist in the campaign as written. Obviously the Silver Bullet is not a place in there. It's just something you guys built over, through the course of the story. So
awesome.
yeah. That Boulay fight was no joke either. Jeez.
Yeah, we have fought some serious foes in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Boulay, the Beholder, the Undead Owlbear, the
Fang Dragon? The Undead Fang Dragon?
Dragon, yeah. Like,
The purple worm. Final battle with the gnolls and people getting paralyzed and carried away, and
Yep.
armies of orcs.
Yep.
Or what is that what they are right now? Orcs?
Orcs is what you're facing right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Post orcs is what we.
Yeah, undead orcs.
Yeah.
if you go back far enough, 3 sorties into the goblin camp, or the goblin encampment.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. So this is, you guys are in modern parlance, you guys would be, I guess, at tier 3, right? No, tier 2? 8th? You guys are between 6th and 8th level right now. That's tier 2, isn't it? Where does tier 3 start in 5th edition? Does it start
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking in 4th edition terms.
Yeah, we got a lot to go. We're not 30th level yet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think tier 1 is up to level 3. Tier 2, I think, is up to level 10. But in any event, like, one of the things with the nature of these level-based class or class-based level, games, is that there's an expectation that there's different parts of the campaign feel like different types of play. Have you found that to be the case over the past 3 years, that you've been segueing into caring about different things? Obviously, you're fighting different monsters and you're using different magic. I don't know at what degree that has affected the play experience or the feel of the campaign.
Well, yeah, now we're business owners. We got to care about the politics, the licensing. There's some larger concerns that you don't have as a first level character there. But as far as I think we're trying to affect the world more now at a higher level here. We made the decision to go back out into the woods here to clear this castle out because we felt capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
May not turn out to be true, but we thought we could.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the biggest for me, just the biggest thing I noticed is the and I think it's is it logarithmic or exponential, but that crest. You go up, and then all of a sudden you start to plateau. As far as experience and leveling up goes, that's what I've noticed. As far as just straight up mechanics wise, that's the one thing I've noticed. So now it becomes more about, I guess, picking the right tool for the job. Because of that, you've got a pretty good selection of tools. Regardless of what your class is, you've got a pretty good selection of tools. And now it's more about using that specific tool for that specific job. Whereas, when you're early on, you usually kind of only have, you're usually, for lack of a better way, a one-trick pony. But now that you got up here, it's taking you longer to kind of move through the levels, but you've got more things you can do at each level. So that's what I feel I've noticed and experienced.
I agree, and I think, I don't know if maybe that's because we're both playing clerics, but like stuff gets cooler as you get higher levels. As a warrior, as a fighter class, you just get better at shit. You don't really get a lot of really cool stuff as a fighter. Weapon specializations, extra damage, things like that. But those are game mechanics. But like, and to be fair, you've always had some pretty cool stuff in your house rules to make the fighters a little more exciting, especially with the AD&D second edition stuff. But the higher levels of being a cleric opens up like cool new stuff to play with, and hey, maybe this shit was in the last retrospective, but like, let's just crack open a giant basin of water and drop it on some giants, because like
yeah, honestly, I thought that's what you were going to answer, but your favorite moment when I genuinely thought, like, you use a lake as a weapon. Like, that's
a little stone shave. Let's just stone shave this door open and or this wall open and see what happens. But stuff like that, like, you don't get those kind of things at low levels, right? It's so you can be a little more creative. You can do some cool stuff. But like Bill said, you have to have the right tool in the toolbox, or you're
Or what you, Andrew? You can't. Well, no, you experience the most character growth level wise of anyone in the last 2 years, because you started playing Tanov at first level, right?
That's true. Well, didn't everybody just start it first when you started
Everyone
the
did,
campaign?
but by the time you joined, you were later, and you were getting bigger chunks of XP, so you were gaining levels.
Yeah. So I got it all at once.
Yeah.
I don't know. So like how I felt the
playing at what I'm trying to remember what Shuck to 7th, 8th level. No, he's 6th level, isn't he?
I think he's 6th. Hold on a second.
He's like 6'3", I think. Like 6 in 1 in Ranger and 3 in
That
Magic
sounds
User.
familiar. Nightblow. Oh my god, so many folders, Andrew.
There you go, Shuck 2. There we go.
Ranger 6, Magic 3.
Okay, so 6'3", yeah. 11,000 off from next level. XP in CNC, I will say, is slower because you guys don't get as much for defeating monsters as you do in second edition, which is not a lot in that. The gear is a big source of like gold and whatnot is a big source in CNC as it is in second edition, but without that class-based XP, I feel like that has slowed down the total lump sum you guys are getting. I'm awarding less even with the addition of like goal-based or role-playing based XP. I feel like you don't get quite as much XP in this as you do in 2E. So it would be interesting to see how starting at first level, going up, what that leveling experience would be like.
Yeah. So sorry, I was listening to everybody's questions, like responses, and I've kind of forgotten the original question itself.
The original question was whether the play at this tier feels different
tier,
in
right.
different way, in whatever ways than it did at the early parts of the campaign.
Right.
Which I guess you weren't here as much for that early part.
No. So I really can only compare, and I think that's my issue. Like, not issue. That's why I'm struggling, because I kind of, you guys kind of gained experience and leveled, on the normal kind of trajectory, getting a treat after every session, so to speak. You were able to get it on a trickle. I got it in fire hose. So I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know that my experience can really give me much in terms of a
You
reflection.
still have to
here,
wait to
'cause-
train, though.
I guess you do have the
Yeah.
similar experience with Crystal Shard.
With
because
Crystal Shard, it would
Crystal
be better,
Shard,
yeah.
they've actually out-leveled what everyone else is. Because we were playing so often in that game as compared to this game, they're higher level. 'Cause I think you guys are 8th level in Crystal Shard. I'm pretty sure Mo was 9th when he passed away.
Yeah, Crystal Shard
He was the first one to hit 9.
Yeah.
Not having to wait to train also helped in Crystal Shard.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We did it different because at the time it was intended to be such a short campaign.
Yeah, 3 years later.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know. I think maybe because it's been so condensed, I really haven't reflected on the changes as I've leveled, because especially in the first few months of me playing with this in this campaign, I was leveling up at almost every session. So I think though, I don't know that. Yeah, I really haven't experienced it.
So Jeff, one of the things that I think about Kalador is that more so than any of the other characters, he has his development has been informed by the gear he's found.
Oh, absolutely. Like, as far as his mechanical gameplay advancements, absolutely. He's been a opportunistic character for sure.
Because he started playing him as kind of a archer / nimble fighter, and then as soon as that shield came into play, you immediately...
Yeah, he found that crazy shield. He's like, okay, I guess I'm fighting with a shield now, because this thing's amazing. and then he took out that longsword that he had found he was mostly wearing on his back. Because I think I found the longsword and the bow at the same time. The hound longsword
in
and the
Thistletop, or in Heathertop Warren.
Yeah, so those two things came at the same time. And he mostly was using that fancy bow that I think he ended up giving to Tanev later, because he was just using the sword and shield.
Yeah.
And I mean, to that effect, the shield that he had, as much as he used it, didn't mean that much to him. But this new shield that he's just found, that might not last long, but I think it meant more to him than the other shield.
It also gives one of the downsides to the fighter class is like the guy said, you don't have nearly as many bells and whistles as what the others can do.
Right. So your magic items, I guess, do have more of an effect on what he does in the fights. As you don't have magic, you don't have as many special skills, so it's you hit things or you shoot things, and so finding a really cool, unique item does give you that little bit of range, like, because that new shield he found, he can create that smoke thing, and he was using it a lot in that last fight.
Oh, definitely. And a great effect too. So I don't think I can't remember if
I wasn't hit for a long time. I think I'm one of the only ones standing, because I was hiding in that smoke the whole time.
Yeah, which was a huge. I mean, and like you were drawing a lot of the enemies away as well, just because they kept running in trying to figure out where the hell you were. And it's been interesting seeing that both the Druin has definitely been playing a role of a tank, but Kalador is harder to hit even than what in both of the versions that the CNC version and the AD&D second edition version. AD&D second edition was like I needed to roll a nat 20 for most monsters unless they were giants.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kalador for a long time there was in second edition was almost unhittable.
Yep.
I mean, the one downside with having such a high AC is like you don't get hit often, but every time you do get hit, it's like a critical, right? It's a it's a bad hit because they've rolled a 20 to hit you. So, at the same token, there's still a lot of danger in that.
So to that end, what role do you guys think that the magic items? Because we were doing for a long time just randomly generated magic items. I'd crack out my magic item. What is it? Encyclopedia Magica, and then just generate a bunch of stuff. I use those rules from the Diablo 2 supplement to add stuff in to give it unique flavor to it, or to create some other random unique items. What's your memory of the impact of magic items on this game over the past 3 years? What ones do you miss now, or
I mean, I sort of kind of miss Fofang, but not really. I mean, it's nice having that reach.
Yep.
The reach was cool, but now that once again, kind of that evolution of Chael, when we moved into, the Pathfinder and kind of opened up some ideas, and then I know we brought in some more spells from, outside of the PHB. In the second edition game, and then especially, of course, now that we're doing CNC, there's really a lot more options. At least the way it seems to me. It seems to me there are a lot more options to be an offensive cleric.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, having to use a two-handed weapon like that, I mean, yeah, it's useless. I know, and it's carried through the ring that Chael has.
Oh, it's the spell resistance one?
No. Hold on a second.
Oh, the one that increases his caster level?
Right.
Yeah.
It increases like a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's a very cool little magic item. Where the hell is it written down? I've got it written down somewhere.
Might be on the handout. Oh no, the handout's only the first page. It doesn't have your magic items on it. I know which one you're talking about.
Or does it not say it there? Curtain of Steel. Stop my alarm. It's something Divine Wind, I think, is what it was called.
Okay.
I think it was like Ring of Divine Wind.
And
it allowed me to cast at a higher level for, I think, the first 4 levels of spells. I got like a extra spell slot for those 4, and it allowed me to turn plus as a higher level. And that's really beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's at least for a cleric, that's tremendously beneficial. And I've had it. I haven't had it since the beginning, but I've had it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that ring for a long time. So it's been really useful, over everything.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as magic items, I mean, that's probably the biggest one. I mean, I wish I had some, more, defensive type stuff maybe. But yeah, that ring is, I mean, that ring is a big deal, and has been for a long time, because I was low level when I got that ring.
Mm-hmm.
I was not that high level when I got it.
And I think the vast majority of your magic items have come from hordes. So from where you guys have, it's been big dumps of stuff you found in monster caves or whatever else, or in, at the end of a dungeon. It's not stuff that you found randomly, on the road. So it's been a lot of like none of these things were predetermined for who they were going to go to. There are a lot of, and there's a lot of magic items you guys just don't make use of that you guys picked up just because they don't fit with the individual characters or they object. There's a couple orcish axes that are sitting in someone's bag of holding because no one uses them.
Yeah. So I think what I would say about magic items and the randomness, the generation of them, like those who watch the channel, and I mean, I'm sure Kevin would know this as well. I love randomness in the games that we play, and I love how the emergent storytelling comes from that, and any random element. And so random magic items would fit in that the same way. And like, in fact, the 5th edition game that I play with 2 of my friends here locally, we just completely, the entire game is random. I haven't written any storyline. We just they started a detective agency in a city that I made up, and they just interact with the characters, and just every single NPC we run into, we stop the game for a second and roll them up randomly together. Like roll their name, roll their personality traits, characteristics, and they all have an interesting thing. And it's just interesting how that plays out. A bunch of the characters have all rolled that they have a nervous eye twitch, and it's become this conspiracy theory in our game of why do they all have the same nervous eye twitch? What is going on there? And it's something that now they're going to investigate. And I just love that kind of stuff. And so for me, random magic items is awesome. I mean, I also love planted magic items, your character finding the perfect battle axe for their character or whatever. But I think that the mix of that, then having that planted item, it makes it so much more powerful and cool for your character, because you've come across random longsword, random greatsword, random this, all this random stuff, and then you're oh my god, the perfect battle axe. Then you even treasure that thing kind of more. I like that. I like a mix of it. Mm-hmm. But as far as specific magic items that I kind of miss, to be honest with you, the one that I miss the most is Rilligo's spear. I love that thing. I miss it.
Yeah.
I hold up my spear. It was awesome. And you always do that, and it totally helped us.
Yeah.
That one time that he did it, we were actually talking about trying to talk our way through something, and he started, I brandish my spear, and I'm
yeah, that's right.
Fighting.
Oh man, I love it.
Steve-O.
Yeah.
What about Druin?
Well, it's funny that what Jeff just talked about with the randomness and whatnot, and also the role-playing components. I'm thinking back while I was looking at my sheet here while Jeff was talking, and the plate mail that I got, I don't think it had that stone skin type thing. That was something. So I had done some role playing piece where we were Druin was blessing the plate mail and smashing up his old armor and stuff like that, and doing some kind of rite to clang it in. And afterwards, you're oh yeah, and it's also got this. And I'm what? You didn't mention that earlier? I'm no. Kev just made this up because he appreciates good role playing. So, so it's but it was I had been waiting for plate mail that my character could wear the entire time, and we're getting chainmail this and chainmail that, and there's a splint mail. I'm no, his god wears plate mail and wields 2 axes. So so the moment he finally finds some plate mail that he can wear, it's hallelujah, clang it in, here we go. And then it turned into now it's got some thing, and even in Castles and Crusades, it's got some additional DR, which isn't in the game, right?
Yeah.
That's
there's optional rules to play with damage reduction in general, but they're not. It's a pretty substantial change to the entire game. To incorporate them, and I'm not confident that I don't think they would be a good fit for what we've been doing. I think the low-level DR that we had with player characters, it was fine for low levels. because I like it a lot in Hyperborea and in Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerers Hyperborea. That's where we got the rules from originally when we were playing with AD&D. But you get to a point where it starts like there's a tension between player character specialness and the rest of the world. So like at times I would allow, like, say, dwarves. If you guys, when you guys fought dwarves in the Legacy Crystal Shard, I gave them DR because they're wearing plate mail and that reinforced the fiction that was going on there. But then I did the same thing with the gnolls, the first batch of gnolls you guys fought. And I could feel your frustration at them being able to break shields and shit through the screen. And I'm like, okay, fuck, I'm not doing this anymore, because it just doesn't. It's realistic in a way, but like it's fucking irritating for the players. And definitely, if the game isn't designed ground up to incorporate that and account for that, I think it can result in those kind of very frustrating play experiences. You know, it's perfectly fine to have separate rules for monsters than it is for players.
But that's where the randomness of the items that we were getting was also, for my character, initially it was kind of frustrating because he had a bastard sword and he was wearing chainmail and he was like he's not anything like what he was aspiring to be. And then slowly over time he got that two-handed axe, but it wasn't going to reveal what it did until he was in the Underdark for a day, and we didn't go into the Underdark more than half a day. So I'm like, okay. And then he got Urfalak, and I'm like, well, you know what? Screw the big axe, because now I got a pretty cool battle axe, and I'll just use that in Skull Splitter all the time. So it was partly to what Jeff was saying. Like, it's like we used what came about, and we changed our characters as need be, and then as stuff came available, it's like, no, I want that, and I'm going to discard whatever else. I'll use this battle axe or this bastard sword as training fee. I'll trade it in and see how much training we can get for it.
Well, the interesting thing with I think just by virtue of who was attending at the time, Hobbs was playing in the game quite a bit more. And his character was an Earth Elementalist, or an Earth Elementalist class, or whatever the second edition version of that is. And it was the staff of Earth that was found. And I think that George just happened. Hobbs didn't make the next session. George did, so he started playing with it. So this whole thing with Rock Slide and whatnot, I think it could have ended up being a very different thing, but that character or that magic item obviously became a huge part of that character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't speak for George, but I don't think George as a player starting talking about Knox being this elemental power type character, I don't think that happened before the staff.
No.
I don't think that happened before then. You know, it was when he got that staff, that's really when he started going down more that path of talking about elementals. And then, of course, you introduced the book and Tharizdun, and now we got really... I mean, I keep waiting for us to show up in the Temple of Elemental Evil. I'm going to be honest. I keep waiting for that day where Kevin's like, oh, guess where you are now?
Oh, it's happening. It's happening.
Well, you guys already have...
I keep waiting for that. I know the night below. Yeah, sure it is, Kevin.
Yeah.
That was one really fun thing about the... Because I mentioned this last week as well, but like I write differently for the different games, just because I think they're suited towards different kind of things. And one of the things that was really satisfying about that PF2 one was that we got a lot of backstory stuff and role-playing done. Like you guys, Chael and some of the others learned about Bacob and the fact that Bacob had been to Tharizdun's realm. George got to have that whole role-playing encounter, that creepy monk dude, and he learned about that, some more backstory on the schism in the Scarlet Brotherhood and the Black Star that is coming to destroy the world.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it was fun because we don't often put story first in this campaign because it's more of an emergent, play campaign. But it was fun to dabble in that and do some more intensive story and role-playing stuff that links to the overall plot more so, or the campaign, more than just like the moment-to-moment pursuing short-term goals kind of thing.
And that's definitely where the war stories are kind of cool that way. I do like that, where they give that opportunity to play the characters or see them in a different way. It's a lot of fun, and it's something I enjoy a lot. I know. I think everybody does.
And I mean, I don't know why Kevin does it, but I understand the concept of, okay, I'm kind of bored with this system right now for a second, and I want to play with this other system. That's the way it is for me. It's like, okay, yeah, I know kind of, the hand you've been dealt, but when you put that other system, PF2, 4E, Rollmaster, whatever you want to call whatever we do, you don't have to do it for a long time. There's no requirement at all to do it for a long time, but it's that in between the courses of a meal. It's that palate cleanser. That's the big part of the war stories that I really enjoy. Is it's a palate cleanser, and it exposes me to stuff. I mean, there is absolutely no way in the world that I ever would have picked up a Pathfinder 2 book ever. I mean, I'm being honest completely. And that's not to say it's a bad game. It's just never something that appealed to me. But after playing it, I mean, I could maybe see myself maybe picking one up,
That's awesome.
I mean, and I've gotten stuff just because of, I certainly with Castles and Crusades, when we were like, hey, we're going to move over this, I bought several books, and I'm glad I did, because it was beneficial for me to do that. There's information in there that's useful, and it exposed me to the system and let me learn the rules better, because I just learn better by reading. So, but yeah, like the Pathfinder 2, really, that's a perfect example for me. And of course, we did the Savage Pathfinder, which taught me the opposite of, I really do not want to be involved in that at all. And it reinforced something that I kind of instinctively knew from when Savage Worlds first came out when I was still in college. And when we played it, I was like, this is why I really didn't key in with it. Which is not to say it's a bad game. It's just not the game for Will.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
So that's what the war stories are great for me. They just expose me. And, Rollmaster, I definitely want to, if nothing else for the lore, I definitely want to get more Rollmaster books. So,
Nice.
There you go.
I agree. I mean, well, not that I have anything against Rollmaster specifically, but not necessarily on just that last point. But like Will, I think this really hits it for me in terms of why I've enjoyed the war stories. Is the palate cleanser concept for sure. I kind of hinted at it earlier, but like I will admit, like full disclosure, Kevin, when I joined both the Crystal Shard game and this game, I was really excited because I was super stoked to get a chance to try AD&D. And I was intimidated at first because of everything that I had perceived and read about, and about the crunch and the level of complexity and difficulty of playing this game, and I was nervous about whether or not I'd figure it out. I'm glad we play with Roll20, because if we were playing with pencil and paper, I'm not sure I would actually be able to keep up, because
you haven't lived until you're trying to figure out THAC0 on the top of your...
Yeah, THAC0, baby.
Still don't understand THAC0. Thanks, Roll20. But I was really excited to learn that rule system, and I will admit that when the war stories was one thing, and I could okay, fine, we're not going to use the real rules for this game, we're going to try something else, and it's fine because it's a enclosed, self-contained kind of thing. But I agree that exposed me to, because I don't love change, and I have a hard time with it, and I'm not resistant to it. I mean, literally, like, we're live, but whatever. So I have tendencies where I'm on the spectrum a little bit, and so change is literally difficult for me to handle, like, on a dime. So sometimes I struggled, and I was a bit like, okay, cool, but then, and that was especially difficult for me when we did the switch to CNC, because I was like, okay, now we're just completely shifting the system, and I don't know much about this system, and I've just finally gotten to the point where I feel like I really have a handle on AD&D, and I'm really enjoying it. And then we're gonna, shift to this other thing. But, I understood, things go stale, and I understood it was difficult to keep up with the characters as they level and progress. But I completely agree that what it's really done is expose me to other systems, other ideas about how to play these games, other concepts that I wouldn't have seen. And like, I think I've mentioned it before, but one of the things I've really found it's been doing is influencing how I run the game as well. Because I my one player calls it I run Dungeons and Dragons with training wheels is how he refers to 5th edition, which isn't entirely unfair, but not completely fair either. I mean, D&D can be pretty damn brutal if you want it to be.
Oh yeah. Just don't pay attention to the CR rules at all. That'll really increase the difficulty of. Yeah. I speak
Balance?
from experience.
What the fuck is balance? I'm gonna throw you a dragon at level 3. Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
But like, but I think that it's allowed me to think about different elements, and I've tried to incorporate, like, I'm running Tomb of Annihilation, a game that, because of its setting, completely not just opens itself up, actively encourages you to use the environment as a encounter every session. And so I'm going to be really drawing on the different rule sets and the different concepts that we've used here in your games and apply them to that. And it's getting me to think about how I prepare sessions and story and encounters in a different way. So I've really enjoyed that part of it now in hindsight, even if I still struggle to actually make the shift, and there's a little part of me that's like, fucking all right, fine.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, there's really, whether the from everyone, like, I mean, I'm glad to hear that you get that positive experience. To be honest, that's one of the reasons why I like dabbling with if there's a specific story purpose that I want to do with something, more often than not nowadays is PF2, because that's my rock system. I've mentioned last week as well, it's my desert island game now. Like, if I had only one game I could bring with me, it's for sure that, because I can reliably tell whatever story I want with that rule system. I'll use other stuff if it's more suited, because I've got access to it, because I don't live on a desert island. But it's the one that is the dependable thing. But it's also really fun seeing. You really don't get a chance to see what the games are until you put them in the hands of the players and you get it to the table. And being able to see the strengths and weaknesses of all of those different games has been an enormous learning experience for myself as well. And it's great, especially, and hearing the reactions for some of them too. I'm so glad to hear, because the Rollmaster, the thing that I invested the most time in probably was stitching together all the character connections and the backstories and all the other nonsense too. And the fact that everyone remembers, or most people seem to remember that as being the thing that stood out in that game, and not the like badass critical hits or the whatever other mechanic thing was. It's instructive, and it's really interesting. I think the system itself was also quite a highlight for some particular, like Jeff. I think you got to be more of a monk in that than any other monk version we've played so far.
Yeah, I would say.
you know, with the way that those the rules play out, and the fact that they take into account both armor and difficulty to hit as separate kind of concepts in it, really allowed you to be your own. You know, like you remember when you ran outside the window on the side of the wall?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
And I think who was it who killed? Was it Shuktu who killed the? Oh no, it was George's character. Who killed the, he flash fried the, whatever it was, the daughter of the rival.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all.
You got pretty banged up too, Chill. You took out of that mage.
Stabbed one of them, and then he flash fried the other one. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. But, yeah. And also when you have it, like, you know, when there's an, even having a negative reaction, like Savage Worlds is definitely one of those, games that has a very pronounced feel to it. And, you know, if you don't, I talked before too, that like there are times when I really love Savage Worlds, and there's times where I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Because of the nature of the exploding dice just makes it for a very challenging, you can't balance combat encounters per se the way you can in other things. There's so much unknown, and like that's part of the fun of it as well, but it's not fun when players die and have to make new characters and whatnot just because of, you know, that's the way the system works and the guardrails were gone from it. So not in an ongoing campaign. For short-term things or things, then who cares? Where there's disposable characters, you're going to make some new thing and play in the beer and pretzels kind of way. But imagine if you guys die because of one bad exploding dice on my part.
Yeah.
Well, for the record, I don't mind dying. I don't mind bad stuff. I mean, I've dealt with level drain.
Yeah, you're the one player.
And come back from it.
Yeah.
Come back from level drain, okay? You know, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, I mean, there's just, everybody's different. And that's why there's so many games.
Yeah.
And honestly, and I mean, yeah, and I'm a lot like Andrew. I wasn't necessarily thrilled we moved to Castles and Crusades, but I'm happy, you know. Because I know I'm playing with you guys. You know, I mean, that makes it all right, you know, to a large extent. So, yeah, I mean, the systems, you know, everything does something a little different. And I having been a player with Kevin for 3 years or whatever, however long it's been at this point, I get why Pathfinder 2 is your jam. I get it. You know, I understand. It's not necessarily my preferred, you know, that's not my desert island, but I get it. I understand. Because I know how you run games. And I like it. It's great on the player-facing side. And I can understand. I haven't done it, but I just understand the rules enough to know why you like it on the DM side.
Absolutely. So, yeah. The fact that I can focus so much on the actual... I can rely that I can, you know, if I need to look up on the fly stats for something and reskin it, I can do that in a second. So I can just focus on running the game. It's one of that's really the. It's also nice. It's that I can run it. I can run the same type of story at first level in terms of engaging all different parts of the game that I do at 15th or 20th or whatever. Different. What do you call it? Different spells and different. You are operating at a different scale for a lot of the characters.
Right.
Different magic items and stuff like that too. But the fact that you can engage all of that stuff, you can have tough encounters. You can have you're not dead in one hit. It just means that the way that you play, like I understand a lot of adventures, at least for 5th edition, are written start at level 3, right? That's because you don't want to have characters die from a strong breeze. Like, you're all sitting around the tavern and then poof, oh fuck, did someone leave a window open? Hey!
Yeah.
Who did that? And it's not a slight against that game. That game really gets humming between like 3rd and 6th. You really can start playing like I think a really solid introductory kind of adventure with that side. The characters aren't super powerful. The game mechanics really get going, and you got a lot of interesting things to do as a character. PF2, first level. I can start doing that stuff. And the downside is you don't necessarily get to have that same experience you do with the other older level-based games where you're 0 to hero, because that is fun. These characters are evidence of why that's a fun thing to do. But yeah. I'd like me some Pathfinder too.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about the math. I get it, and you can focus on the story, because that's, that to me. And I've played Ash, which is where we started. I've played this game. We're playing Witcher now. You're about the story. That's what you're about. You're about challenging the players, and you're about challenging the characters, but you're about the story. You're there to have an entertaining time for yourself and everybody else.
Bingo.
And that's why Pathfinder 2 is so great for you, because you ain't got to worry about the system. The system has been, and it has really, if you look at it, because it really owes to 3rd edition, that system has been tested over decades now at this point. So the math is solid. You're good with the math.
Nice. Any closing thoughts, guys?
What is going to use the next war story?
I think the next war story should actually, I'll be honest, I think it should be 5e.
Yeah, we haven't done a 5e. We were talking last time about the 2 systems that I had considered and why I rejected them. One was 3rd edition. And 3rd edition is out largely because I don't know that it gives a substantially different play experience to like C&C or 2nd edition. And also there are certain characters that are really hard to build properly with it. John's character and Jeff's character, I think, are in particular, and now Shuktu would be challenging to figure out what you would look like in 3rd edition. And we had, honestly, the best 3rd edition adventure we've already started playing, and that was the 3rd edition or 3.5 Barrow Maze. 3.5 Barrow Maze was the fucking best 3.5 experience I've had, and the best Barrow Maze version. It just hit the perfect, like, scary lethality with a solid set of rules to drive it along. It was really, really good. So I don't know.
Friday night crits. I gotta tell you.
Yeah, David routinely get fucking brutal with Gargosh? What was his name? Vargosh, right. The half-orc Conan. But 5e, it wasn't until I got access to the most recent Midgard class book came out, and I finally had a way of building John's character in 5th edition.
Okay.
Everyone else I can kind of build in one way or another to figure it out. The 5th edition cleric is very much like the way you guys play both Chael and Druin. You could multi-class Druin, but Druin's got access to high-level spells. So I think, that's one of the things with some of the other games, is that where multi-classing comes at the sacrifice of your ultimate level, it's very hard to build the kinds of 2nd edition characters that you guys are playing in this. But yeah, that's interesting, because I've given thought to what the 5th edition. I haven't given thought to what Shuktu is going to look like, because he's got a C&C exclusive class.
Oh, yeah. Thinking about it,
right.
I'm not sure how you'd create Shuktu in 5e, because the Ranger, no. Like, the Ranger rules aren't going to really cater to that too well.
I think there are, Midgard has a shit ton of variants of Ranger, and I'll bet you I might be able to find something that would fit there. Midgard also has Deep Magic, which is like 700 new spells and a bunch of different spell things. So, like, you can flesh out a bunch of different areas. There's a ton of new cleric domains, and that's where you could really fit that. Midgard, the player's book as well, also has really interesting rules for weapon maneuvers that allow you to differentiate in 5th edition all the different weapons, which is one of the things I think has remained consistent in this campaign, is that different weapons feel like they have different advantages, so there's reasons why you pick a longsword or a spear or whatever. Dave, Andrew, or Jeff, any DCC, and you all die.
I always think about the luck mechanic in that, and it always makes me think of you.
Yeah, a DCC is one of the ones, just because of the spell tables, I've always bounced off of it. I got some stuff about middle of the year last year for it that looked pretty interesting, and then I got distracted by something shiny.
Yeah, I know that.
I think it was the Dangerous Journeys, actually. It might have been the thing that distracted me. But
yep, probably.
Yeah. Jeff, Andrew, Dave, any closing thoughts? Wrapping up 3 years behind us. Many ahead.
Yeah, looking forward to more. That's all I gotta say.
Dave, any closing thoughts?
Let's hunt some orc.
Well done. All right. So then, for those listening at home, thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of our 3-year retrospective. 4 hours looking back. Time to start moving forward. So we will be back in a week's time with a whole bunch of heroes, many of which have vital fluids leaking from places that should not be leaking. We'll see
Are we doing
what happens.
phrasing?
What's that?
No, never mind.
We'll be back in 1 week's time with the actual campaign to pick up once again. But until then, we hope that we gave you a couple of hours to take your mind off the troubles of our world and think of the adventures that our heroes have undergone these past 3 and into 4 years playing this campaign. Thank you to everybody for joining us. So whether you joined us recently and binge to get caught up, whether you're just joining us in the more recent sessions, or if you've been with us from the beginning, thank you for everybody for sharing our shenanigans in Haranshire and the surrounding region above, below, and around. This has been an enormously fun campaign to run, and I look forward to many, many more years of this campaign with you guys. There are a couple links down below. Now, it isn't active yet, but I got a new discount code from Noble Knight, so I need to confirm that. I only got it just before the session started. Down below, we have a link to our friends at Noble Knight Games. Noble Knight Games is the preeminent unionized retailer of hard-to-find and auto-print RPGs in North America. They have not only a wide selection of new RPGs, board games, and card games, they also have an amazing selection of hard-to-find and auto-print RPGs. So if you are looking for something that is not going to be a recent release, go head on over there. If they don't have it in stock, you can often put it on a want list, and they will let you know when it comes in. I actually have an order coming in tomorrow, which fucking New Year made it delayed, so my delayed gratification is not really a good thing for me. So we there's a code down below, which is, I believe, the Muse, all one word. If you enter that at checkout, all caps, you will save yourself 10% on any purchase of $10 or more through their website. In addition, there's also a link down below to Heroes Save Villages. We're going to be getting a new link for that as well, too. I have heard from the people at SOS Children's Villages International. We're going to reset the goal for that for 2023. That benefits all SOS Children's Villages International, a terrific organization active in over 130 countries, benefiting over 80,000 orphaned and abandoned children, including ongoing relief efforts in Ukraine and the surrounding countries at the time of recording. All money that is donated through that link goes directly to SOS Children's Villages International. None of it goes to the channel or any other middleman, just goes to help out those kids who benefit from their services. And as a small way of saying thank you, we will be having a raffle at the end of our next charity raffle at the end of January. And every $25 Canadian that you donate gives you one chance to win the grand prize or one of the other great prizes. I am going to be doing, I think this weekend, an unboxing of the grand prize. It is not the copy that the winner will get. It's my own copy, and that is, I've got it here because I was going to do it on New Year's Day, and then I did not do anything on New Year's Day. Ugh. All was quiet on New Year's Day. It is the Platinum Edition from Beetle and Grimm's Platinum Edition Spelljammer Adventures in Space. It is an amazing product. This is part of the thing. This is the miniatures that come with it.
Oh my gosh.
And
it's so big.
The maps that come with it. And then there's a couple other things as well that I forgot to bring in. But yeah, it's an amazing thing, and they've donated a copy very generously to serve as our grand prize. If you don't win the grand prize in the charity raffle, we still have a ton of other great prizes, including a chainmail dice bag made by our resident armor smith here, Dave. Look at that, beautiful. As a bunch of stuff donated from some other members of the community, some stuff donated from some other retailers, or not retailers, but publishers. And I got some shit sitting in my room, or my guest room, that has, that we have to give away as well. So there's a lot of great prizes, and all money that is donated goes directly to SOS Children's Villages International. Anything you've donated since June 15, 2022 will give you one chance to win for every $25 that Geek at. We'll do it live on whatever date I I have at the end of January. I have not yet had a chance to decide on that. In addition, there is a link down below to the Dungeon Musings Discord server. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the session, the campaign, or the game we play, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below, or head on over to the Dungeon Musings Discord server. There's a terrific community over there of very friendly and very helpful people. You are more than welcome to join. If anyone has any suggestions for future war stories as well, too, you've heard how well they go over. Please feel free to share those suggestions as well. I have a couple. I have ideas kicking around. Now that we because the last one was so successful at PF2, it really. I'm thinking of it differently in as far as instead of dabbling with a game, of trying to use it to facilitate a backstory. Yeah, Druin says PF2. Exactly. So, so lots of other things. And we've done, I should mention, we also did a weird, I can't remember if it was these characters or if it was ones from our Barrow Maze game, but we did a one-shot playing Pulp Cthulhu until at the end of it, Steve's character blew up everybody. Because you guys were at an oil derrick and the oil was leaking and he had fire-based powers and it blew up everybody. So it was a lot of fun. But anyway, so feel free to leave a comment down below. Join us over on the Dungeon Musings Discord server or otherwise. Otherwise, we'll be back next week to properly pick up some axes, some swords, some spellcasting components, and some dice, and return back to the night below. Until then, we hope that we gave you a couple of hours to take your mind off the troubles of our world and think about the adventures our heroes have been on for these past 3 years. And until we see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, Happy New Year, and happy gaming.
See ya.